I'm very proud. I told these guys in the locker room they need to hold their heads high. There's nothing to be ashamed of for what they did this season. The work that they put in, the challenges that we were faced with. Everybody's got their own unique challenges. We had ours, but never did anyone complain. We never got the poor me's. They just worked and they came back to work. And as a coach, that makes you proud. But what I do know is I think that every player that leaves our program is a better man. And for these two guys right here, from when Jade was here when I got here, Quinn coming in and trusting us, that permeates throughout our locker room. When you have trust from your leaders, then you get trust from the other players in that locker room. So we've got a great deal of pride. We got a great deal of pride in this helmet. We got a great deal of pride in being Longhorns and playing the game of football the right way. I think we do that. I think we win with class, and I think we lost with class tonight. And I think that that's something that you learn in life. Life's not always going to go your way, but if you can do it the right way, and then you show some resolve and some resiliency, and you be a man about it, and you be accountable for your actions, you can get on the other side of that adversity and keep going forward. And that's what these two guys will do, and that's what the other 120 guys in that locker room will do.
On second thought, 357. You just heard the words of Steve Sarkisian summing up the Texas football season. We're about to hit that hard. Now that we've had a chance to completely digest what was the end of the football season, one round too early. Cedric Golden here, and you see that familiar face. And if you're in your car, you're about to hear a gruffly, nasally familiar voice. Kirk Bohls of the Houston Chronicle. Oh, I hate saying it. Joining us to put a bow, Duck, on the football season. Are you over it yet, Duck? I think you are, but I think it would have been fun if I had been back in Atlanta with you covering a championship game.
Yeah, we should have got an apartment. I was in Atlanta three times in 6 weeks. It's like
Crazy.
cheaper. Can
That's
you have a
crazy.
football game somewhere else? So anyway, good to be back with you. I haven't seen you in, oh my God, what, an hour and a half?
It's been a long time. How about Bob Armstrong dip? You had the
Got
chicken fajita salad. The sports diva Suzanne Halliburton had the asadero tacos, and your boy tore down a foot-long beef enchilada. I'm sorry, Bev, I had to get after that. The Ozempic's working, but every now and then you got to have a cheat day.
can't
Gotta
believe you put that on
get that
film. I can't
Sorrento.
believe you owned up to it,
I
man.
have to.
She
I've
didn't
lost
have
some
to
weight.
know. She didn't have to know.
Ma'am, I've lost some weight, but I'm exercising. I'm feeling good. You're
Good,
looking good, Duck, sounding good. And uh
good.
I just, people tune in, you know what? A shout out to the people that miss us doing the pod together. You bailed on us and quit, and
You
I
pushed me out the door.
took your ball and roll and went home. The one thing I need to ask you is, I mean,
Yes.
why didn't you just stick it out? I mean, you were only here for 51 years. You couldn't do 60. I mean, that's got to be gnawing at you a little bit because most people try to stick it out, and you didn't stick around long enough at the Statesman, right, Doug?
Well, I had a goal of 52 years, but there was only so much of you I could take.
Oh my God. Yeah. But hey, there's some things you can't argue with. And you stuck it out better than most, even though you didn't talk to me for my first 2 years working there.
You keep going back to that. I worked
Easy. I was been
remotely
easy.
back then.
Mm.
I worked remotely because I didn't have a desk. They said you're gone too much. So,
When have you ever worked? When have you ever worked?
yeah, that's a good point. That's a
You were
valid point.
you were at the McDonald's drive-through. I went by there. I saw it. But let's get to the horns. Man,
Yes, yes, let's do it.
13-3 season under Steve Sarkisian, year four of two straight national college football playoff college semifinals, but two straight disappointing losses that basically both ended in the red zone.
Mhm.
How would you grade year four of the Sark experience?
Well, you said at the top of the show that we were going to digest the season. It left me with a little indigestion, quite frankly, because of what might have been. I mean, they had a excellent season, a very good season. I would stop short of a spectacular season because These are the Longhorns we're talking about. And if there's one quote we hear over and over every Monday, the standard is the standard. And semifinals ain't the standard. So they don't want to get too far away from that. And as good as they've been, like you mentioned, back-to-back college football playoff semifinal games, both they're right there on the doorstep before they can kick the door in. It left you wanting more. It didn't leave you empty or hollow. I think it left most Longhorns very proud of the fact that they had such a good season, especially in the first year in the meat grinder that is the SEC, and did so well in the playoffs, winning 2 games and playing Ohio State better than anybody.
Oh yeah.
But just it leaves them a little bit, not empty, I'm not sure what the word is, a little unsatisfied, I guess. Is that fair?
Yeah, yeah, it's like Teddy KGB at the end of Rounders, and Matt Damon is taking his money and he goads him into playing some more. He was like, I feel so unsatisfied because you just know that they were good enough. And I wrote before, and you did too, Doug. This was Sarkeesian's best chance to win a national
Yeah.
championship.
It was. It was.
3 year
You can't argue.
starter at quarterback and Quinn Ewers, all Americans at the key positions, the best, deepest receiving core in the country, a top 3 defense in the country. And
Yes.
they just let it get away. And Duck, here's the thing that I believe Longhorn Nation should be very wary of. Quit assuming
Hmm.
that this is going to happen every year. Quit
Right.
assuming you're going to always be in the national semifinals. They don't give that away. How about Alabama didn't make it to back to the
There you go.
final?
Perfect example.
How
Perfect example.
about that? How about Michigan, the defending champion, didn't make it back?
Right.
Texas
Right.
the only team that made it back to
Two
the
Final Fours.
Final four. So don't assume that this is just who we are. Sarkisian, one hell of a coach, one hell
Hmm.
of a recruiter. Texas has
Right.
one hell of a collective. So they're going to get guys. But when you lose Kelvin Banks, the best left tackle in the country, when you lose those great receivers, Isaiah Bond, when you lose Matthew Golden, when you lose Gunnar Helm, when you lose Andrew Makuba, when you lose Jade Barron, when you lose Vernon Broughton and Alfred Collins,
You left somebody out.
who
Quinn Ewers,
I
you
said
remember
for your
him?
starter at quarterback, yeah, you
I
lose,
didn't hear you say his
him.
name.
Yeah,
Okay.
you lose all of that institutional knowledge. And I know that Nick Saban and Kirby Smart made an art form of big NFL classes and they still reloaded. Sark did it once, but what
Hmm.
do you think about him doing it twice? And how do you grade this past season? I give him a solid B. Only because an A would have had to come with them making the national championship game. I can't award them an A if they don't get to the big dance.
You're tougher than me. I'd give him an A minus. I go, you're in the Final Four, and not just in the Final Four. This wasn't SMU versus Penn State, okay? This wasn't Tennessee versus Ohio State. They're right there. They're on the doorstep.
Just as good.
Tie the game with 2+ minutes left. Ohio State Buckeye fans were sweating. It's like we didn't expect it to be this hard, and they're right there. And I think you mentioned how this was a wasted opportunity because it was one of the best defenses in school history. I mean, you mentioned I was at Statesman 51 years, not counting this year, and about 10 years before when I was a kid growing up watching the Longhorn. This was one of the best defenses the school's ever had. And you're not guaranteed that again. And you look at it, you mentioned a lot of them. They're going to lose 6 defensive linemen. They've lost 4 offensive line starters. You mentioned the quarterback, the running back, the top 2 receivers, a record-breaking tight end. Half of the secondary, including a Thorpe Award winner, I mean, they're all gone. And you don't get that chemistry back automatically. You and I know that. But it's interesting. I'm doing my preseason top 25 poll, always do,
Me
and
too.
always wait a little bit. Always wait a bit to after the portal and stuff like that. And mine's running, I think, Sunday. But I'm looking at some of the other polls, and there are so many Texas preseason number 1s. I don't get that. Do you, Said?
I think it's hype, man. I think it's hype. I
Manning?
really believe it's the Arch Manning factor.
No question.
I mean,
No.
he is David. He's David of Galilee.
Yeah.
He's the guy that they think is gonna, if Quinn was Moses,
Yeah.
that got him to the promised land, he's gonna be Joshua. He's gonna lead him into that mug. And so
Mhm.
um a lot's gonna be placed on him. And I
Oh,
think the preseason number one rankings, and it's preliminary, Doug. And I'm gonna have them top three in mine, and mine's running either Sunday or Monday. I know you know, I know
yeah.
it's premature, but I think I think they're assuming that Arch is going to be a world beater from the moment he takes that first snap. There's going to
Right.
be some growing pains, surely, right?
Well, sure. I mean, I bet he throws an interception sometime in October, you
Ha!
know, somewhere like that. But I mean, he's undefeated. He's 2-0. He had a quarterback rating of almost 184, better than Quinn's, and
Smaller
obviously
sample size,
he's looked good, and he's more mobile than Quinn. He's bigger and stronger than Quinn. He's got
bigger
a
arm.
better surname than Quinn. I mean, but
What's wrong with being
again,
yours?
it's potential, but I think the combination of Arch and Sark and the 2-year run they've been on going 25-5 is it kind of it tempts people to go, oh well, just check them off. Like you mentioned, Alabama every year, Georgia every year. One of those is going to be number one, maybe the other one two or three, but you just automatically put them there. And does Texas have that right yet to be considered automatic top five? I don't know. I think I'll probably have them in my top five too, but they may lose. I don't know. It's something like maybe 14 starters or somewhere close to that they could lose. And the O line, the D line, those are, you could use the word decimated. Now he's recruited very well, and he's got some in the portal coming in. He got a guy from Ohio State and Purdue and North Carolina to kind of beef up that defensive line, which he needed to. And it's a tough schedule too, tougher schedule. You go to Ohio State, you go to Georgia, you go to Florida, you go to Kentucky, which beat Ole Miss. I mean,
And
it's not
those
that
old
easy.
rivals, A&M and Oklahoma, not
No,
gonna be happy getting
they're
beat.
not going away. No,
Those
exactly.
rivalry games. I think this schedule's even tougher.
I do too, because of the
Even
road.
tougher than much
Yeah,
tougher because of the road games and because Ohio State just ascended to the top of the
right.
mountain and Ryan Day can rest easy now.
Hmm.
But the one thing I wonder about is um, plugging those holes. Will Hero Cano and Cole Brevard, who is the third one, Duck? The guy
Travis Shaw from Carolina.
in Carolina's Travis Shaw. Will those guys be the new Alfred Collins, Vernon Broughton, Kill Bill,
Mhm.
Lole? I mean, he seems to always be able to plug and play, and I think that's a testament to Kenny Baker. That's a testament to PK that they're able to plug and play. But boy, they've got guys that are going to have to step into some massive shoes. Trevor
And,
Goolsby was great,
and
but
they're
he
good.
I assume he's going to be on the left side
Oh yeah,
of
yeah. I
that
bet you
line.
ain't
He's ready,
stepping
but
back.
and then getting and then DJ Campbell's back. I mean, I didn't mention Jake Majors, losing Jake Majors, the most
Hmm.
starts in history. So just so many guys leaving. But off the top of the dome,
Hmm.
someone put a gun to your head. Where are they going to finish? What regular season record next season?
Well, two things. One, we just talked about preseason polls, a bunch of them putting Texas number one. That kind of tells me there ain't an automatic number one. Oregon had a ton of losses. A lot of these teams, Ohio State lost both running backs. They lose their quarterback. They lose their entire defensive line. Uh, Oregon, I already mentioned Georgia. All those defensive players that they had are gone, and they're breaking in a new quarterback. So there's not that automatic, oh my God. But like last year, I picked Ohio State. They were number one on my preseason poll in January and in August, just before the season. So, that plays into it. So, and I think sometimes said we know Texas so well, we know all their warts as well as all their shiny points. And so sometimes you think other teams don't have those warts. They do.
They do.
The other
We just don't see
do.
them every day.
Yeah, I mean, last year, I mean, I said 10-2. I predicted they'd lose to Georgia, and then I predicted they would lose to A&M. But obviously they beat the Aggies and didn't have that second loss till the SEC title game. I think this is very similar. I could see them go 11-1. They may be catching Ohio State at just the right time because they're breaking in, like I said, new defensive line, new quarterback. Jeremiah Smith's there, and they've shown they can cover him already. So I'm toggling between 10-2 and 11-1. What do you
Me
got?
too. I had them at 11-1. I got that right. Only two things I got on the nose was the record, 11-1, and the 46 sacks. Somehow I got that right on the nose.
Nice,
Yeah,
nice. I have losing to Ohio State in the playoffs.
that's awesome. That's awesome. So
We get a
when
few
I'm
right.
in Texas, that's awesome that you got it right.
We get a few right once in a while, you and
Yeah,
I.
broke watch is right twice a day. But I think 10. I'm right now. I'm a solid 10-2.
Hmm.
Um, I love that they're going to Columbus. I love that they're going to Columbus in the very first game. That's sexy, Duck.
Oh my
I
God.
mean, you're not playing Slippery Rock and then going to Ohio State. You're going to Ohio State right away. That puts a lot of pressure on them. The fact that the CFP, though, basically is, hey, just don't lose 3 games. You got a chance.
Hmm.
That's the CFP that we live in. But
Yeah.
I think they're going to expand it anytime soon. I know they were meeting, and um, I could see it being expanded really soon after this season, and it makes for a busier December than we're accustomed to as sports writers. We kind of like to figure out to take a little bit of time before that New Year's bowl game, but I've got to tell you, Duck, it was easily the most fun December I've had. It was a
Mhm.
busy December, but man, it was fun. I love the CFP, and I was on board with 8 teams, but after this season, the best regular season ever with
Mhm.
elimination games in the regular season, they got it right with 12.
What
They
would you
got
change?
it
What
right.
would you change? The home campus games, the first round, to me was
Absolutely.
such a hit. I would be very tempted to make the quarterfinals at home. Those first two rounds.
Yes,
It,
yes, Doug, because the attendance wasn't great in the quarters.
oh,
The attendance wasn't great in the quarters. And these people have, I mean, I ran into some people, I guess, second trip to Atlanta, Peach Bowl,
hmm,
coming
right.
back from the Peach Bowl in the airport. And I ran into some great fans. Oh, so excited. And they were disappointed. I mean, they were not disappointed. They were excited because they won that game, but they were like, man, we got to figure out how to get our money together for another
Hmm.
trip to Atlanta if Texas beats Ohio State in Dallas. And they were like, man, a lot of them are season ticket holders, but these people work for a living, Duck. It's expensive. It's expensive. And if that second game, that quarterfinal, is a campus game, that's going to save some people some money that they can be using Christmas presents and not
Yeah,
having
but
to go money to try to get back to another plane flight in New Year's Day or New Year's Eve or whenever it is. I think it makes more sense to have more games on campus.
does Junior and Betty Sue really have to go to college? I mean,
Yeah,
college is great. Spend that money now. Does the baby really have to eat? I mean, come on, it's football. Okay.
it is.
No,
You
I'm
know,
right there with you. It's expensive as hell. Well, you had season tickets. Another reason they ought to get rid of the conference championship game, don't you think?
they got to
I
get
would.
rid of that, and they won't. They won't.
They won't because of money. All
It's
that money.
too much money. The mouse is running this thing. Mickey
Yeah.
is running it, and ESPN and Mickey are lining their pockets. It is too much money. And
Yeah.
I will say this, the SEC championship game, there were more people at the
Hmm.
SEC championship game than were at the Peach Bowl.
I know because it was the first one. It was
Yeah,
the first SEC
So
championship game in Texas. So I think that's part of it. So I'd get rid of the conference championship games, work it out where, you don't have divisions anymore. If somebody's unbeaten, then they're the champion. If they're two of them are tied with the best record, have co-champions and give them all rings. It's like I think the rest is more important and the week on the schedule is more important. I wish we saw games on August 15th. I mean, your baseball College World Series almost stretches to 4th of July.
oh
You
yeah.
know, you have the golf, you have the tennis, you have track, those are stretching into June, after the calendar semester. So I wouldn't mind seeing, get rid of the conference championship game, add another bye if you have to, start games on August 22nd, something like that. I kind of hate to see it that, I was in Atlanta for the championship game January 20th. Another one in the next year or two is going to be like January 25th. We're so close to going to be Saturday college football championship, Sunday Super Bowl. It's almost like we're getting there, which is very taxing on everybody.
And I'm good. I'm good with it. The more football, the merrier.
I
I'm
know.
good
I'll
with that,
get you here.
but I don't like the conference title game. I don't think it serves a real purpose anymore, except to line the pockets of
Right.
people at ESPN and the college and the CFP people, the
Well, like
NCAA.
how many people were at the Big 12 championship game up in Arlington? I don't know. Was it half full? I don't know,
Man,
but
it's been a nice crowd, but I mean, I
still,
know those people. I know that the Texas people knew that they were going to be in the CFP, and a lot of them may have stayed away because
I think so.
they knew that they would have to try to save up.
I
And
think
some of the people, Doug, some of the people in Atlanta, they got to the SEC title game, and they may have paid these exorbitant prices for tickets, and I think they may
so.
have gone through the foundation, but only to arrive in Atlanta, and there were tickets going for like 25, $30 to get in
Secondary
that
market,
place.
very reasonable,
Mhm.
very reasonable. So you got a star for Longhorns next year? Do you got a
Yeah, yeah.
sun star? Who you looking at?
Okay, I think well, Collins. I think Colin Simmons is already a star, so
I,
I'm not gonna
I,
name him. I
I,
think the guy that's got to step up and just be a grown man, besides Arch, of course, who's already
sure, that's a given.
Ethan Burke, Doug. Westlake's Ethan
Good one.
Burke, 6'7", long arms, edge rusher, great first step.
Right.
And he's had flashes, Doug. It's time for those flashes to become explosions every Saturday. You can't just show up on one out of every two or three games. I'm not saying the effort is bad, but I think he has the potential to be an All-American defensive end.
Yeah. Oh, I agree
I
with
think
you.
that he's a guy, and they've got him and they've got Colin Simmons and Trey Burke is back. That's a nice that's a nice little
Yeah.
rotation of edge rushers. But
Right.
I think they need Ethan Burke to be way more disruptive than he's been. And I think
Well, they have to because you mentioned all these D linemen that are coming in, but the people that are already there, you know, Ethan Burke, Colin Simmons, Trey Moore, and remember Moore wasn't good the first half of the season.
at
Remember, we kept
all. We
we
kept
kept
waiting.
waiting for him to get
Where is
back,
he?
and he
Where's Trey
he,
Moore?
he finally started to get better. About A&M game on, he played very, very well. But some of these other guys, it takes them some while. So, and I think that's a good one. I got two. You mentioned one of them earlier, and that was Trevor Gooseby. And
I
I
love
think
it.
the way he came in after Kelvin Banks was hurt, seventh play of the A&M game at
Grown
right
man. Grown
and
man.
he was terrific. So I think he's going to make a really outstanding left tackle. And the other one I have is Ryan Wingo, the freshman wide receiver, be a sophomore next year. He saw glimpses, and I thought he was better the first half of the season. And I don't know if it was a health thing. He had a few drops second half of the season, but I think he's got star quality, all over the place. So I look for those two to really kind of have breakout years next fall.
I think it's big that none of Sark's coaches left. I think that's huge.
Hmm.
I think that's huge. And Sark got his money and reportedly declined some NFL interviews. CDC, when you ask him about it, said, "Oh, before the about NFL interest, called it fodder and stupid." No, CDC,
I
that's a
know.
compliment. That means you hired the right guy.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's like if you're walking through the mall with your wife and you get mad because somebody's looking at her, dude. I get mad if somebody's not looking because then I go, what am I doing with her? So be
Yeah,
glad that those NFL teams want Steve Sarkisian because Steve
yeah.
Sarkisian is a boss. He's a top three play caller in the country. So just don't pitch it.
Want to
Watch
coach
it
the
from the
man?
shotgun. Just don't do that again.
No, no, and that's going to haunt him until he wins one. That's going
It
to be
will.
his Pete Carroll goal line call against the Patriots.
It was
Until
scar.
he
That
gets
was
over
scar,
that
scar
hump. And I
tissue
hope
from, or it was scar tissue from the OU game when they didn't get it in four downs. That was scar tissue.
And I hope somebody trusts him enough to say, "Oh, we kind of blew that, Sark," or "You blew it, Sark." He's had a spectacular run here, especially the last 2 years. But it's all
Right.
about getting better, like you said. You can't just assume everything's going to stay the same. And speaking of NFL teams,
Oh
you
no,
know,
do
I
we?
think
Do we have to? Do we have to? What Jerry Jones? I mean,
poor Cowboy fan.
okay, I'm gonna put my cards on the table, and I'm a poker player. I'm put my cards on the
Oh,
table.
lay him
What
out there.
was that soliloquy? What Jerry? You went from buying the Cowboys to talking about people waiting for you to die, and then you look at Brian Schottenheimer, a 50 something, who's never been a head coach in this league. You just hired him,
Hmm.
not even the best coach in his own family, and you call him the biggest risk you've.
Biggest risk he's ever taken.
And
Way to
why
build
the
up
hell
his
did you
confidence.
hire him?
Way to build up his confidence.
Why are you being so risky? If
Because he's
Jerry
familiar.
Jones,
He's familiar. He's comfortable. He's deferential, which is
oh, he's
all,
all in.
yeah, yeah. It's like Jerry was last off season, right? All in. So he
What a
knew Rico
horrible,
Dowdle
really
was
bad.
going.
That's a bad hire. It's a bad.
Yeah,
It's a bad
it,
hire. I'd
it's
bring
been,
back Mike McCarthy before I'd hire Brian Schottenheimer to be the.
yeah. Would you, if you were in Jerry's shoes or Steven's shoes, would you have said, "Hey, let's go get Dion. He's got charisma. He can relate to today's players." Do you think that would have worked?
I think maybe, but the one thing about Dion is he would have taken some shine off Jera.
Yeah.
Jerry likes that shine. Jerry likes a coach who doesn't want to talk to the media much. I'm telling you, when I went to one of those drafts, and it was one early in the Jason Garrett era,
Yeah.
and they had just, I think it was the Johnny Manziel draft. I was at that one, and we were afterwards. There was a presser, and there were like 8 questions asked before Jason Garrett even got asked a question. It was all Jerry and Steven.
It's
And
like the
he
head
just sat
coach.
there. The head coach of the Dallas Cowboys went like 10 minutes without answering a question. And that's
Yeah.
what Jerry wants. And Dion's not a wallflower. So,
No.
they'd be asking Prime all kinds of questions.
And
So
that'd be a marketing paradise. They would probably lead Sports Center 3 times a week in the off season. That's how,
never thought they'd hire him. Never thought
yeah.
would have bet a lot of money against it. They've never had a
Yeah.
black head coach, Doug. They've never had one.
You don't think they'll have one, do
Huh? No.
you? Ever hire one, do
Buffalo's
you?
been playing football since what, 1960? So it's been 65 years. Be patient. Maybe one day. Maybe one day.
Maybe one day. He didn't even look at Aaron Glenn or Ben Johnson. I mean,
I love Aaron Glenn. I love how I don't know if you saw the little clip when they
so
asked one of the reporters goes, "Is Aaron Rodgers your quarterback?" He goes, "Like I said, we're evaluating, and anyone else who wants to ask, I'm going to give you the same answer." And the guy
yeah.
goes, "What do you look for in a quarterback?" And he goes, "I want a tough, I want a winner." And he goes, "Well, Parcells said," he goes, "I'm not Bill Parcells. I'm Aaron Glenn." I love that about Aaron Glenn, and I hope he succeeds. I think the Jets are a disaster. I think
Yeah.
Woody Johnson is the AFC's version of Jerry Jones. And so I don't know that the Cowboys will ever make it back to the Super Bowl. I don't know. Because I'm telling you,
Why would anybody have faith? Why would
Jaden
anybody have faith?
Daniels in his rookie season has done something that the Cowboys couldn't do in the last 30 years, and that's get to an NFC championship game.
At
That's
least the Cowboys are in a very weak division.
oh yeah.
I mean, both of them playing for the right to go to the Super Bowl. Jerry's at home watching. I mean, no, Aaron Glenn, I love his toughness, and we all know he was a heck of a player, a cornerback too. So I think he'll get it done. I love it. He said, at the press, fasten your seat belts. Okay, be ready to get on for the ride. So
He's an
yeah,
Aggie, right?
oh yeah, he
That's
definitely
two tough-minded Aggies.
exactly.
Him and Dan Campbell.
Dan Campbell's my favorite coach, and I love Mike Vrabel. I wish Jerry would have looked at Mike Vrabel. He has that toughness about
I like
him.
Mike Vrabel too, but he's no nonsense. And I just think Jerry's
Yeah.
a puppet. I think Jerry just wants to be Geppetto and be a guy that's the star of the show. And he admittedly wanted to be a coach. He wanted to be a
Mhm.
coach.
Oh yeah.
And
He thinks
now
he
look
is a
at him.
coach. And one thing fans don't realize that if you cover a Cowboy game, at the end of the game, we go down waiting outside the locker room. And before we get in the locker room, here comes Jerry.
Here he
And then
comes.
there's just
And,
a horde of media. It's
and the
like
TV camera.
30 people around him. And he has a little monologue and he gives a breakdown of every game. He does that every game.
And he loves it.
What owner does it? No other owner ever does that.
When do you see a Mara? When do you see a Rooney? When do you
Who?
see Clark?
Who? 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 Yeah.
You see them when it's time to pick up a championship. That's when you see those
Right.
guys. You see them on the stage, and that's when they have
Right.
their moment, and they deserve it. But
Yeah.
besides that, you just see them in the owner's box during games. You don't see them outside the locker room talking about time of possession and play execution. I just think he's way too close to this, and I think when he's done, I think Steven's going to be the same way.
I think so too. I mean, he's talking about the quote championship drought. There's no quotes around it. It is a championship drought. And
Why was you taking offense to that? 30 years,
I,
Duck, I had hair and a six pack the last time they won a Super Bowl.
oh
It's
goodness.
30 years
Well,
ago, man.
they're in denial. I hope they get Cam Scatterbo. I'd love to see him be a Cowboy. Kind of give him that toughness back. And I'm sure since Rico Dowdle went over 1,000 yards, he probably thinks, okay, we're set there.
Are we?
I mean,
Are
they
we?
need so much. They almost have three players with Dak and Parsons and CeeDee Lamb. They got so many needs. So
Well,
who knows?
before we get out of here, since
Yeah,
I don't, I know I'll see you during the Super Bowl, but I'm not going to have you on here next week. I can't do that in good conscience. The Super Bowl is coming up a week from Sunday. Well, where are you leaning? The Eagles are the most talented roster
hmm
in the league, but I've learned the hard way about betting against Patrick Mahomes, and he just seems to find a way.
yeah.
Is this the year the Philadelphia Eagles break through? Because that last Super Bowl, I thought Jalen Hurts outplayed Patrick, but he had nothing to show for it.
I don't think this is the same Jalen Hurts we saw 2 years ago in the
He's
Super Bowl.
different. He's not as
He's
good.
not the passer. He's been gimpy. He's been hurt some this year. He's got great receivers. AJ Brown when he's not reading a novel is one of the top receivers in the NFL, and Devontae Smith, and you know they've got talent, as you said. But you and I have a saying. We always go, "Well, who you gonna pick? Who you gonna pick?" And what's one thing you always tell me when it's a close matchup? What do you
Oh,
say?
always go with the best quarterback, Duck.
Always go with the best quarterback. Is there any doubt Mahomes is a better quarterback than Jalen Hurts?
Zero
So
doubt. There's zero
I'm,
doubt.
I've got Chiefs fatigue. You and I, we have great friends that love the Chiefs. They will remain nameless.
Michael
But I'm
McCambridge.
ready. I'm ready for somebody else to take the mantle. So unfortunately, I think the Chiefs will probably win, and hell, they might even get a benefit of an official's call for a change.
Well,
But I'm
those
going
refs
with
need to choose.
Kansas City.
When you just don't lay a hand on Patrick Mahomes, and if you even pretend to lay a hand, it's 15. It's
Uh,
15.
and can we get some technology for the first down?
I
Come on,
really, yeah, really.
Goodell.
And shout out to Moro Ojimo of the Eagles,
Yeah.
uh,
David Worthy.
Worthy, Xavier Worthy, and Charles Omenihu
A
of the
minute who
Chiefs for
Texas
making
Longhorns are being
the
represented.
34th Super Bowl featuring a Longhorn. I believe that's right. So I'm taking the Chiefs. I'm taking the
Me
Chiefs
too.
because Patrick Mahomes is Patrick Mahomes and he's healthy. So we're gonna enjoy that game. We'll have you back on sometime. I know it's basketball season, and we're gonna do it sometime in the next few weeks. But man, it's so much fun to have you on here. I'm not going to pay you, so don't even ask for money. But
You didn't
thanks
even buy me
for
lunch.
joining
I
us.
had to buy your lunch.
That'll do it for 357 of On Second Thought. For Kirk Bohls, I'm Ced Golden. We'll see you next time.
See you, everybody.